Hey guys, this is Brandon Uchiha here. Today we're doing something new. This is something me and my brother Yasu have been discussing for a while. This will be a new series which I will be doing reactions to videos, but I do give my unfiltered opinion on whatever the topic of the video is going over. Now, if you are somebody who is easily gets offended by the mere difference of opinion or something you agree or disagree with, then this won't be the video for you because I will say opinions down the road of this journey that you will not agree with. Well, that is okay. And of course, everyone has their opinion. Whether they are valid or not is another story. Now, off to the video.
Jobs are the essential basis of our modern.
Jobs. It's time for America to get back to work.
Work, the defining task of our lives.
Uh-huh.
An indicator of status,
Yep.
generator of wealth, and a necessity.
Yep. Unfortunately.
The world we exist in is built around work. You set an alarm for work, drive to work, do your work, stress about work, commute home from work, and even relax to try to get away from work. For many,
I'm pretty sure that's very true for a lot of people. I mean, I could definitely say it for myself at least, but for those people who don't have to worry about work or who are, I guess you could say they like their job because they're making an X amount of money, they have all of this wealth, all this success and everything. They don't really, well, you would think you don't have to worry about that, but it's kind of the opposite. They still have to worry about it because now they have a higher expectation to perform. But other than that, I think it's still the same struggle, but I think it's different for others.
work is hell. Horror stories of
Depends,
abusive
yeah.
bosses.
We are made to work continuously, often through the night. Our bosses don't care. They're only bothered about production.
And exploitative conditions.
We've looked at how we can get packages to the customer in a day, but we haven't figured out how we can get packages to the customer in a day without hurting people.
Well, of course not, because, well, the company or whoever you're working for doesn't give a shit. All they care about is you're doing your job and you're getting the job done. Rather or not it is safe or not, or whether you get hurt or not, is not really their concern. I mean, why would they? I mean, their only concern is to try to get money at the end of the day, so that way it gets into their pockets. Now, I'm not saying this for all companies, but I guess from our point of view, that's what it looks like.
Are not uncommon in our work to live economy. This is the story of work, how it's come to define our lives and destroy our environment. But this is also the story of how we might carve new paths away from work towards modes of living that embrace play, happiness, and a rich relationship with land and people. This video is made possible by Curiosity Stream and Nebula. Watch my brand
okay.
new full-length companion video to this one, exploring one of capitalism's biggest climate gambles on Nebula, by signing up for the Curiosity
Okay.
Stream Nebula bundle using the link in the description.
Maybe I might. What does work
Before we
mean?
go any further, we need to understand.
Okay, so before he gives his explanation, I'll tell you what the word work means, or at least for me anyway. Work is something that you are being productive to society and you're bringing forth value into the world. And not only that, but it's something that also, supposedly, depending on who you talk to, gives you fulfillment. You're feeling fulfilled by doing this job and you feel great about doing this job. But let's just be honest here. Someone who's being just a dishwasher at fucking McDonald's or some restaurant or wherever, I guarantee he probably does not feel fulfilled whatsoever, because he's probably thinking of, okay, this is not what I want to be. I want to do something that's definitely my dream. This is not fulfilling. Like, why am I only doing this? And well, it's because, well, you're only doing by your own means to get money, because unfortunately not all dreams can come true. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in order to make your dream a reality, you have to put in a lot of work, a lot of hours, and probably sacrifice a lot of sleep for it, probably. Now, that's just my point of view on it, but that's just what I think work is. Basically, you're being productive, and that you're producing some kind of value into the world, rather it's an actual product to the world that can be useful, rather it's entertainment, rather it's education, etc.
Understand what work means under capitalism. Because as feminist scholar Kathy Weeks describes in her book, The Problem with Work, feminism, Marxism, anti-work politics, and post-work imaginaries, wage work remains today the centerpiece of late capitalist economic systems. She goes on to add that wage work is not only the primary mechanism by which income is distributed, it is also the basic means by which status is allocated and by which most people gain access to healthcare and retirement. In short,
I always thought that was weird. So I'm pretty sure, like, now I could be wrong on this one, but I remember a specific time frame where if you couldn't afford health insurance, they would give you a fine for not having health insurance. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me is like, okay, what the fuck? Why are you fining me for something I cannot afford? Like what the hell? This is fucked up. And to be honest, at least from my point of view, that's them saying, well, we don't care. We just want your fucking money, and because you're not buying our product, we're going to give you a fine for you to pay for that, and also somehow again, to try to get this health insurance, so that way you're buying our service or whatever. I always find that to be very fucking dumb. Now, I do agree, everyone should have health care. I think it's very important, but I do not think you should have to pay for it to a certain extent. Like, when it comes to, like, basic necessities, like, going to regular doctor appointments to see how you're doing and all that, I don't think that should be paid for. I just don't think. Now, of course, and how the world works, that's not how it works. But, yeah, that's just what I think. And I just thought it was very fucking stupid. I'm not sure if that actually happened or not. All I remember is it was from an article or something while I was in high school of that, hey, if you didn't have Obamacare, you got fined for not having health care. And I'm like, well, okay, that makes no fucking sense. How are we supposed to get health care if you're giving us these fines to not, basically to not have the ability to get to health care in the first place? Like, it's so fucking stupid. You make it look like you only care about the money, not for us to actually get health insurance.
Under capitalism, we need to work in order to live.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
We lose social status and our very means of subsistence.
No shit. I mean, let's just be honest here for a second. If you're not making like six figures and all that, and of course some other factors in between, a lot of people will look at you as a loser. Like, let's just be honest here. Now, what you define success is, I guess, what is completely up to you. But however, to me, what I think success is that you're achieving what you want to do in your life. Rather, it's okay, I want to be an NBA player, or you want to work as a carpenter. Like, as long as you're doing something like that, I would see it as, okay, you're being successful. You're actually accomplishing what you want to do.
So when we critique work under capitalism, we're not saying there is no labor that needs to be done. Cooking, cleaning, construction, farming, and childcare are all examples of forms of labor that we would need no matter what economic system we live in. I'm specific.
It's also more like this, and this is this whole thing about with Flippy, for example, the one robot that's flipping burgers and all that. Like, it's definitely interesting and maybe even possibly useful. But the one thing, and I always thought about this for a very long time, is that there will be a point where everything's gonna be automated. But the thing is that people don't think about is that there's always gonna be labor needed. Like, it doesn't matter what age of time that we're in. Because let's think about it. If all these robots are doing all of this shit, there's going to have to be a living vessel or somebody to fix them, right? So the labor's still needed there. Like, it doesn't matter how efficient you make it, labor's always going to be unnecessary. Like, that's just the way it is. Even if you make a robot that fixes this robot, and then you make that robot fix this robot, it all comes back down to an actual living vessel who has a pulse, who can fix the robot that completes the whole chain. So really, no matter how efficient you make it, labor's always going to be needed, at least to some kind of minimum.
Specifically critiquing wage work, which can be thought of as the commodification of your productive labor, or in other words, the act of selling your labor power, aka your ability to produce goods, for cash or wages.
Yeah.
A system wherein instead of cooking to feed yourself or your neighbors, you sell your time and expertise slicing cucumbers to a company and in return receive money. This is, as Kathy Weeks and indeed Marx argue, the lifeblood of capitalism. capitalism. And to make matters worse, within capitalism, the profit incentive means that employers inevitably try to minimize the amount they are paying you while maximizing your productive output.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think a lot of employers do that. But I do think there is some kind of, how do I put it? Kind of like a structure to how it should work, so that way it's functional. Like, it should be like this. So let's look at this guy here and the employee over here, right? This guy here has to make at least 55% of the profit, and for two different reasons that I'll get to. And as for the employee, ideally, she should be making 45% of that profit. That is if, but that's just for one employee. But I think that 45% as a whole is to all employees. However, though, we all know that's not how that fucking works. It's more like fucking 90 to 10% here. But anyway, let's get back to the example here. So now, that's what I told you before. There's two reasons why your boss or your employer or the company that you're working for, the reason why he has to make more money than you is for two reasons, and this is just how it is. If you want to expand your company, you're going to need money. If you want to invest money into more workers to make more money, to make more profit, get more product, the owner, at the end of the day, has to make more money. He has to profit from it somehow. That, I do agree, that's how it should work. But as for this, to minimize the pay to your workers and maximizing your output, is just wrong. But that's just me. Now, certain jobs are, well, different from others. I think that's the difference between, let's say, someone who's working labor for $15 an hour versus somebody, let's say, a lawyer. I'm not sure how much they make. They make like $40 or $50 an hour. I could be wrong there. I'll have to look into that. It has been a long while. But you kind of get the point. I mean, certain jobs you should get paid for exactly what you're doing. But at the same time, though, your employer has to make it worth your while. And if they're not making it worth your while, that's when you say fuck them and you just leave and you go somewhere else that will benefit your life better.
The less they pay you for your time and the more you can produce, the larger their bank account grows. As a result, wage work under capitalism is necessarily a system of exploitation of employees by employers. But because there are few alternatives, we are forced into this exploitation, selling our labor in order to live.
Uh-huh.
You're at a party. The lights are dim, the music a little louder than usual.
I never really been to parties really in high school. I didn't think they were worth my time. Now, of course, for a lot of people, they probably were, but I just never really thought they were. I mean, I've been to like maybe a couple, but during the whole time I would be at the party, I'm like, man, what the fuck am I doing? I could be playing League of Legends. I could be playing WoW. I could be playing some other game. Why the fuck am I here? That's just an extra random thought there.
And a friend of a friend comes over to you and strikes up a conversation. They immediately dive in with a question. What do you do for a living? And Sebastian.
What do you do for a living? Oh boy. Isn't it funny how that one question kind of in a way sets the perception of how that person's gonna look at you based on where you work? Like, let's just be honest here for like 1 second. We'll get back to the video here. I guarantee you someone's not gonna be impressed if you say, oh, I work at McDonald's. They're not gonna be impressed with that. They're gonna look at you like, wow, wow, that's very bad. Wow, you're a fucking loser. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking to you now. Which I think is wrong, because if you actually think about it, there are people who are making the food for you, so you don't have to do it. So, yeah. But yeah, that I think there's a big difference between, oh, I'm a McDonald's employee versus like, oh, I'm the CEO for X company. Which one do you think is more appealing, more attractive, or more like, oh, who do you think basically is the actual successful one here? More often than not, people are going to say the person who is the CEO, not the McDonald's employee.
Of capitalism that is the U.S. This is a common turn of phrase that speaks terms of our puritanical relationship with work. Quite literally, we spend most of our times on the job. In 2017, the average US worker spent 1,757 hours working per year.
Is that with overtime, or is that just the regular 40 hours a week? I mean, that could be it, but I just like certain details to be a little bit specific. Now, I definitely agree the number's very high for people who work at least a 40-hour week. Like, if this is 40 hours a week for just an average employee, imagine people who are working like 50 to 60 hours a week. This number's probably way fucking higher. At which, at that point, it's just too much. Like, I like the idea of overtime when you get paid for it, but only if you're getting ahead of the curve by doing the overtime. Just saying.
Which is just under half of their total waking hours. We work for a
Yeah.
myriad of reasons.
Like, I work 10 hours a day.
At the end of the month, pay utilities,
If not 12.
medical bills, pay off debt, and even to fit in with our neighbors and friends.
I never really understood that. I mean, to be honest, I don't really give a shit. I mean, hell, I'll go to the fucking store in, like, my fucking, my pajamas. Like, I'll just have my sweatpants, a random-ass shirt, my hair's all fucking messed up, and I don't give a shit if someone's gonna look at me going like, he looks fucking horrible. Like, he looks like he just crawled out of a cave. I'm like, well, guess what? I don't give a fuck. I'm just here to grab my freaking breakfast sandwich and my drink, and then go back to my house to play video games, okay? So you worry about you, while I worry about me. That's just my attitude. I just have the I don't give a fuck attitude, because I don't really give a shit what people think of me as, you know, by appearance. At least to an extent. But with, like, the clothing or fashion part of it, I don't give a shit. If my purpose is only to get myself what I want from the store and then go back home, I'm not going to give a shit what people think. If I actually was giving a shit what people thought, rather it's for like, okay, I might meet someone who might want a relationship with me, or maybe I'll find maybe someone who I'll impress with and probably get a better job there. You know, like, there's a whole bunch of hypotheticals that go into that mix. I just don't think it's fucking worth it. It should just be as simple as, look, if your only concern is just getting whatever you need, just go and get it. Who cares? At least for me, anyway.
Without resources held in common, wage work is the dominant means by which we're able to provide for ourselves. And to make matters worse, this kind of work has become intertwined with virtue. If you work hard, if you get down in the muck, you're a productive member of society and you'll be rewarded.
Not really. Well, yes and no. At least back then that might have been the case, but right now, apparently the new trend is, hey, if you do work these jobs where you're getting in the mud, you're considered a loser, not successful. Even though you're probably making more money averagely than some people who are working an office job. I'm just saying that's just what I think, or at least around here, a lot of people don't exactly see it that way.
Sentiment rooted in a Puritan work ethic that is epitomized in modern hustle culture and the dream job mentality.
Gotta keep putting in the work, putting in the work, putting in work. There is no quick cure.
So now we must not only report to work to put food on our plates, but we must also be passionate about how we make our money. If we care enough, the thinking goes, exploitative and inhumane working conditions are acceptable.
No, they should not be acceptable. Inhumane work conditions, like, absolutely fucking not. Like, ideally, the dream nowadays is, hey, get your dream job so you can work the hours and basically you work for you and you decide how you want to go about your work. Rather, you want to work, let's say you only want to put in 20 hours a week. Okay, great, you can do that. Versus 100, you kind of get the point. You get to decide literally your balance with work and also your outside work, like hobbies and shit. And as for inhumane work conditions, I don't think they should fucking exist. It should, well, I'm pretty sure it is illegal to an extent, but I think there's more ways to mix up an inhuman and make it so fucking so insufferable and so fucking miserable to make an employee just do shit that's just not worth your fucking time.
many times have you...
Even if you're doing a dream job, I don't think you should be put up with bullshit, even with your dream job. Hell, even with a job that you're especially not exactly so passionate about.
heard do what you love and find your dream job? Journalist and author Sarah Jaffe suggests that this is yet another way to exploit workers.
So you see this labor of love story then just seeping into everything. This myth has become so pervasive in this economy, and it accompanies worsening conditions broadly across the entire economy. So you're getting more sort of verbal pressure to love your job at the same time as your job is giving you less back.
This love your job framing is insidious. If
Yeah.
a company convinces you to work for passion or for a cause, then you might be willing to work for less compensation.
Absolutely fucking not. I would want to get paid with equal compensation for what the job asks for you to do. I believe that is complete bullshit. Anyone who says otherwise, I don't agree with it.
This is the case for mission-driven nonprofits where burnout runs rampant, for creative industries like film and animation, and the quote-unquote working for a cause mentality that is now being used to lure workers into the oppressive warehouses.
I guarantee you, well, I guess not guarantee you, but there's a part of me that this woman right here who's in the picture, she's not smiling underneath that mask. She's like, oh god, what the fuck are you taking this picture for? I just want to do my job, get the fuck out of here, and go home and actually do something that I actually give a shit about. I'm only... That's just why I think. I'm not saying that's literally her, but a good majority of the time, employees that take these pictures that make the company look good, a good majority of the time, they're just like, okay, I'm just doing this because I'm getting paid, so I can... excuse me. Get my money and then go the fuck home and just do something better with my life. Just pointing that out.
Amazon. Our work shapes who we are, whether we like it or not. And it not
True.
only defines our personal lives, it defines our environments and communities.
Yep. Okay, I would say that's true.
Found strong evidence that households with longer work hours have significantly larger carbon footprints. The author's point
Yeah,
is
I would imagine that.
longer hours
I would imagine that because, you drive your car, especially if you don't have a Tesla, like some people, you're emitting a lot more fumes into the environment or the atmosphere or however that fucking shit works. But I get the general idea of, hey, the more cars that are running that are not, a Tesla, excuse me, you're basically emitting more fossil fuels or you're increasing the carbon footprint and you're just skyrocketing it.
at work leave little room for tasks like cooking or grocery shopping, which often leads to an increase in carbon-intensive activities like getting takeout and home delivery.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
The more work
I didn't think
we
about that.
do, the more emissions we create. And there are also a number of studies that reveal that the opposite is true. The fewer hours we work, the less emissions we create. But we'll get...
Well, yeah, that's what I would think. At least I would hope so. I mean, it's kind of the opposite with a lot of things. If more creates more and less creates less, then that's how it should work. Now, rather it's sustainable or something like that might be a different story. But I'm not entirely sure or very well educated on, how the whole environmental with the what you just said with the carbon footprint. I'm not too familiar with it, but I do get the gist and the idea of it.
get into the specifics of that research a little later on, because there is also a social toll to capitalist wage work.
They ask us to work so late. I can't even feed my children at night.
Because our employers get us to
That's
work
sad.
during the bulk of our waking day, we have very little free time for organizing, deliberating, being in community, and finding passion and play outside of our job, all of which are crucial parts to a true democratic system.
I think it's past that. I think it should be life. Because if you're just working and you're miserable, and that's all you can do is just work and be miserable, then a lot of people are going to think, well, then what the fuck is the point? And from that standpoint alone, just from that outside from what comes after, just from right there, is completely understandable. I don't think every human being should be miserable. You should be able to get some kind of time to be happy with yourself. Rather, it's like for me, for example, I go to work. I work to 10 to 12 hours a day, and then when I get home, I do some of the necessary things, like I take care of my mom, and I also take care of some other housely things, and then the rest of the night, I just either normally I would go to the gym, but because of my knee, not able to do that at the moment until I get that looked at. But a good majority of the time, I play video games with the boys and just have a good fucking time and not have a fucking care in the world and just kind of forget about work in the outside world for at least a couple hours. So that way it's more tolerable the next day for me to go back to work and deal with the bullshit all over again. At least that's what I think. I mean, yeah, you should be happy about life, not be miserable. And of course, work on top of that, only making that worse, is definitely not helping.
Perhaps this is purposeful. The more free time we have, the more we recognize the exploitation of work, the flaws and destruction of capitalism, and ultimately the necessity to end work as we know it. But before we end wage work, we need to understand just how meaningless some work under capitalism really is.
Meaningless work.
You commute by car every day into your corporate cubicle job. Sit
Okay.
down, turn on your computer, and act as a glorified copy and paste button. All day, every day, you copy text from employee emails asking for tech help and paste it into a separate form. Or you stand guard over an empty room. Or you drive an hour into work just to move some military equipment from one room to another. Well, you can stop imagining because these are all real descriptions of people's jobs.
Oh,
In
really?
his book, Bullshit Jobs, anthropologist David Graeber supplies countless confessions from workers across the world condemning the pointlessness of their own jobs. Indeed, a recent poll from YouGov found that 1 in 5 people living in the United States think their job is not making a meaningful contribution to the world.
Well, that's what a lot of it is, but employers try to tell you, saying, like, you doing this tiny thing, oh, it saves us a lot of time. Like, a lot of people probably get told that, being like, hey, if you do this, you're saving a lot of time by doing this tiny thing. Even though, yeah, on the grand scheme of things, what you're doing that's so tiny is basically very little to no insignificance whatsoever. But that's just part of what I went, part of me going back earlier to what I said, that we human beings want to be fulfilled by what we are doing. Like with the previous example, I guarantee you that someone who's being a dishwasher, or somebody who's, let's say there's probably a job for someone cutting like cucumbers, they probably don't feel fulfilled or feel like it's meaningful doing those jobs. I guarantee you not a whole bunch of them are going to agree with that. There might be that one oddball here and there. They're saying, oh, this is so meaningful. Which at that point would be like, hey, if that's what you want to think, okay. But me, no. I don't find that meaningful or fulfilling at all.
And a similar poll conducted in the UK revealed that a quarter of British workers claimed their jobs lacked meaning. That is a substantial amount
That
of
too,
people
yeah.
who think their jobs are doing little or nothing.
Yeah.
Graeber points to whole industries like corporate law, telemarketing, and private equity whose jobs wouldn't be missed for a second if they didn't exist. He also nods towards other industries that are not only useless, but create immense amounts of waste and emissions. Speculative construction, planned obsolescence, and, I would add, the military and imperial countries like the US. Real estate companies building a high-rise on property that they think might gain in value, but is too expensive for most people to live in. Phone companies that render gadgets unusable after 2 years, and a war machine that starts wars to protect oil interests and creates more emissions than many countries of the world. All in the business of excess and excrement. What if instead we only built accessible dwellings for people, phones that lasted 15 years or more, and dismantled the military-industrial complex? works. Maybe then we would have a little less environmentally destructive and meaningless work on our hands, and a lot of hours to do something we actually care about away from our job.
Yeah, that's definitely true. In our perfect world. Absolutely. Though, actually, I'm going to see what else he says on this, but it's definitely appealing to what he just said. It definitely would be nice if you didn't have to buy a brand new phone every, what is it, every 2 years? 4 years? Or at least for me, I get my phone replaced, I would say around at least a minimum of 2 to 3 years. Because by then, either my phone doesn't support some of the games that I play on it, or it starts acting weird because, like you just said before, sometimes the phone just does not last any longer than 4 years. But yeah, I'm just going to continue on.
And in stark opposition to these useless jobs, the paid work that actually needs doing and is often low carbon is undervalued and cast aside. Exploited farmhands, underpaid teachers, and burnt-out caregivers, among others, are professions relegated to the lower rungs of worker status. We refuse to acknowledge the truly brutal reality of the kind of work that makes our cheap, convenient lives possible. So we outsource it, often to the most marginalized members of society, and that allows the rest of us to ignore it. So in this economic system, a lot of the work we value most, as evidenced by both the paychecks of the people doing the work and the social value associated with that work, is some of the least important to the well-being of a society. And much of the work we devalue is the most needed. On top of that, meaningless jobs that exist throughout the economy often are situated in industries that produce the most waste and emissions. So, if the capitalist form of work doesn't work, how can we work less? What would even happen if we worked less? Or dare I say it, end this capitalist form of work once and for all?
What happens when we don't work?
What would happen if we ended exploitative or useless wage work as we know? What if work wasn't required to put food on your plate? Well, we have lots of studies examining shorter work weeks, which divorced pay from hours worked, and give us a very small glimpse at a different relationship with work. Iceland, the UK, Spain, and even countries like Microsoft Japan, among many others,
Microsoft Japan tested a 4-day work week and productivity jumped by 40%. Oh, okay. I actually understand why it might have jumped up, but I'll just go and continue.
The results for almost all of them have been positive. In Iceland, the government trialed a 32-hour work week while maintaining the same pay, and the participants reported significantly less stress, more focus, more time to do household work.
Let's see. Across both trials, many workers expressed that after starting to work fewer hours, they felt better, more energized, and less stressed, resulting in them having more energy for other activities such as exercise, friends, and hobbies. This has been a good product effect on their work. Well, yeah. The thing is nowadays is that people want to work less, but still get the same amount of pay, if not more, so that they can go have fun with their families, with their friends, or with their hobbies, or all the above. I'm pretty sure that's with really anybody. Unless I'm crazy here, but I'm pretty sure that's with anybody. I cannot imagine someone going like, well, no, I want to work more, because I want to work more so that way I can get even more money. Like, well, yeah, you could do that, but at that point, he would not have to have a life in order to want something like that. At least that's what I think. Like, if you have a life and you have hobbies and you have, a family or friends you want to hang out with, you're not really going to want to work more for more money. You're only working more for more money because it's a necessity, not because you actually want to. If that makes any sense.
And more time to spend with family and friends. In a trial for Microsoft's Japan offices...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but not only that, but there are also a lot other people on top of it, I think, nowadays, where they're working more than one job. Because it's just that bad. Especially right now with the economy, with how the fuck it is. Some people have to work more than one job, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4, just to, pay and make ends meet. I guarantee you those people who are working those 2, 3, or 4 jobs, they're not doing it because they want to. They're like, no, it's a necessity. It's the way it is. I have to do this. If I don't, then I don't get to live. It's fucked up, man.
Produced similar results. From these studies, we can see that less work means better quality of life.
Yeah.
But something that is often overlooked in the conversation about a shorter work week is the environmental impact of less work. During the Microsoft trial, for example, the offices used 23% less electricity and printed 59% fewer sheets of paper. While a projection of the consequences of shifting the UK to a 4-day work week without the loss of pay found that the reduction in work could cut the country's carbon footprint by 127 million tons per year.
If only the US and everywhere else were to start doing this. Like, well, at least for a good majority of jobs. Now, for labor jobs, like, say, if you work on a farm like I do, or if you do, like, construction, like those kind of jobs in particular, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, you'll still have to work probably 5 or 6 days a week, depending on your area or whatever. I'm not sure how that works. But for jobs that are, like, I would say, for example, like, you just go to an office job, like a corporate office job, and all you do is just go there and you copy-paste that. Okay, I think that would be fair if you only worked less because you're not really doing something that's that necessary. Unfortunately, it's more necessary for, like, a farmer to work every day, if not at least a minimum 5 days a week, to get out there and get the crops growing and, all that happy shit. But yeah, I definitely think this would be nice, but I'm not sure if it'll ever happen, or at least in our lifetime. I don't think, or at least in the U.S. anyway.
By 2025, that's a 21.3% cut to the UK's total yearly emissions. While a 2015 Swedish study found that for every 1% decrease in working time, energy use decreased by 0.7% and greenhouse gas emissions dropped by 0.8%.
I'm not sure that's a really big number. These are really big numbers or not. They probably are in the grand scheme of things, maybe. But it just looks small. I mean, when I see a number like this, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, from, like, maybe a scientist's perspective, this is huge, or these are massive. But to me, I don't see how this is so significant. Now, if you told me just to hyperbolize it, I'm just going to use that word from here to get my point across. If you said this is 80% and 70%, then okay, then that means it's working. Or at least to someone who's not very well educated will look at it and go, oh, okay, that's very good. Versus this, I don't think.
Why there are such significant reductions in emissions is that there's less commuting, as well as less energy needed for computers, office lights, and paper production.
Okay.
Also, a shorter workweek trial in France found that when people have more time, they're likely to spend it on low-carbon activities like gardening, walking, and reading. In addition,
that's
if
cool.
they're able to cut down on meaningless jobs creating useless stuff, consumption decreases and waste decreases. We're less tempted to buy a random gadget if there's no one to make it and no company to advertise it. And when we're less stressed, less disconnected, and not burnt out, we are less reliant on technology as a tool to numb and distract ourselves. But a shorter work week is just a taste. What would it mean to have a world not based on work for wages, but instead on pleasure and play? A world
That would be
without
nice.
exploitative and meaningless work is a truly enticing
Excuse me.
idea. Instead of people giving up their time with their children to work more, or people being abused because they have no way to get out of their exploitative workplace, or people working endlessly to not even make enough to pay for food or rent or clean water for their families, maybe we could have a world where every day people wake up, are provided for, and did the work because they wanted to, not because they needed to pay for the roof over their head and the food on their table.
Ideally, yeah, that would be nice. but I think we would have to live in a perfect world for that to happen, or at least in this lifetime. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, I would love it for it to happen, but I just don't think. I think it's more of a fantasy or some kind of dream where it will not happen, at least in this lifetime. Just saying. And I don't mean to be so very negative about it, but I try to look at it from a realistic worldview perspective. Like, people who are working a job that they want to, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. Because if you have people who only want to work, let's say as a lawyer or a doctor, but they don't want to work, let's say as a plumber, as a farmer, as a construction worker, then it kind of gets a little out of hand, and at that point you have to force people into the job so that way work like that gets done. That's just one perspective or one way how it can go about. And an unfortunate thing is, because of that one outcome that could happen, I don't think it could work. Because most people don't really want to do labor. Or at least a good majority nowadays.
How that would function is left to be seen, but it would definitely require a shared burden of undesirable jobs, some amount of automation, and a much stronger sense of collective responsibility. Maybe you help build your neighbor's house not because you're getting paid to do it, but because you like carpentry and seeing the joy on your neighbor's face when the building is complete.
Yeah, that's cool.
It would certainly be a slower world without people grinding away in warehouses.
Yeah, it definitely would be.
That one-day shipping. But a slower life could give time for people to stop, appreciate, and care for the environments and people around them. If this sounds like I have my head in the clouds, there are a wide range of people and movements fighting to change our current relationship with work. Some, mainly based in anarchist political tendencies, are fighting to abolish work as we know it. They seek a world that embraces and finds what anarchist Bob Black calls a society based on festivity, creativity, conviviality, commensality, and maybe even art.
Okay, with that, I mean, yeah, if that were the case, yeah, the whole one-day shipping would not be one-day shipping anymore. It probably would be more like a couple days. And the reason why I still, like I said before, why this whole thing won't come to be, at least fully, at least not in our lifetime, is because a lot of us have been conditioned to this instant gratification of, I want this right now. Like, I want this right now, or maybe a day minimum of wait. Like, let's think about it, for example, I think back then, before microwaves were even a thing, you actually had to cook your food, and it might take maybe an hour or two, depending on what you are making. Nowadays, you can just grab like a microwavable pizza, put it in the microwave, put it in for like 2 minutes, and then eat. Well, I mean, which one sounds more time efficient? Supposedly, the 2 hours of cooking it, or the 2 minutes you have to wait to eat? Probably the 2 minutes of just wait 2 minutes, then eat your food, and then get to what you want to do. But yeah, that's just what I think. I think we're way too conditioned by the instant gratification of, I want this now and I should have this right now. Which I will say, to a degree, if you're putting that much money to have something right then and there, or at least by minimum by tomorrow, you should get it by that point. You should. But yeah, but that's just what me going back what I said before about how we're also conditioned to have this mindset and be so conditioned to not have very little to no patience with anything nowadays.
No, this doesn't mean everyone will just sit on the couch and watch TV.
I doubt it. That possibility does exist, but we'll keep going.
These anarchist visions imagine full control of the means of production in order to transform work from a job that you need in order to eat to an act of pleasure that you do because you love it.
Okay.
About all those useful things people produce in their free time. Vegetables from a backyard garden, clothes from hobby sewing, and blogs, art, cabinets, the list goes on. but others are merely working to reform the workplace to achieve more dignity for the worker. They seek better conditions, higher wages, and more say in the workplace. And still others, like
That'd be
degrowthers
nice.
and progressives, seek the shorter work week, lessening the environmental and social toll of work by a day or two, giving us the ability to rest, retreat, and capture some time for ourselves. At the end of the day, we need to do away with our current relation with work. To me, this necessitates abolishing it, because as long as capitalist wage work exists, the systems of domination between employer and employee will continue to exist. Capitalism will continue to spawn meaningless jobs that pollute our environments and fill our oceans with trash. Finding a path away from work and towards play and meaning is an essential task of a post-capitalist, post-carbon world. We are capable of living in a world without wage work. We are capable of living in a world where you don't have to go to a job in order to eat. Where the
Just because we're capable doesn't mean we want to either. Just putting that out there.
destruction of the natural world isn't the cost of the job, where play is emphasized above toil. We are capable. We just have to be bold enough to reach out and seize it.
A future without capitalistic work is possible. Yeah, but it's very unlikely because everyone would have to agree with it. Which, if we want to be honest here, not everyone's going to agree with this. Because there's going to be people who are going to say, well, then how is this going to work? Then how's this going to work? Basically, you're just tearing the whole system apart, essentially. And everyone's going to get mad, pissed off, that something that they're so familiar with that works for them is now being redone. And now they're just going to get so fucking mad. So I definitely think it is possible, and I think it should happen. Whether or not it's going to be easy or not is a whole different discussion.
But if doing away with our current relationship with work is a post-capitalist strategy for mitigating climate change, what solutions are being proposed within our current capitalist framework, and are they effective? I dive into those exact questions in an additional full-length companion video to this one on Nebula, looking at capitalism's biggest climate gamble. If you don't know by now, Nebula is home to tons of ad-free exclusive content, like a bunch of extended videos and interviews from me, as well as original videos from other creators like Second Thought, Polymatter, or even Wendover Productions, who created a feature-length documentary on sea level rise and the drowning of the Marshall Islands. Nebula allows me to flex my creative muscles without having to worry about ad revenue or the dreaded YouTube algorithm. It's a platform made by creators for creators, and it provides
that'd be nice.
Consistency.
I might look into that.
Hard to find through YouTube. And the best way to get access to Nebula is to sign up with our partner CuriosityStream, the largest source of informative documentaries.
I don't know. If I had to do something else for nothing, I might reconsider now.
Documentary Earth's Survival, which weaves together interviews of researchers and climate scientists at the top of their field in order to get a full picture of the scope of the climate crisis. But if that's not your speed, there are thousands of other big-budget movies on CuriosityStream, like a host of David Attenborough nature documentaries, and even ones imagining what various futures will look like. And you can get access to both Nebula and CuriosityStream with our bundle deal available at curiositystream.com/OCC for 26% off. That's $14.79 a year, or a little over $1 a month. So basically $1 a month for a version of YouTube with more content, no ads, a lifetime supply of engaging educational videos, and
The Simpsons,
that you're supporting indie creators doing what they love. It might just be the best investment you make in your online experience. Again, go to curiositystream.com/OCC or click the link in the description if you want to sign up for Nebula and CuriosityStream.
Okay.
And now you've made it to the end of the video, so thank you so much. If you're looking for another video to watch, I'd recommend checking out the one on screen right now. And if you're looking for a quick way to sign up for Nebula, you can click on the link on the screen. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Okay, that was a very good video. So yeah, to sum it up, yeah, I definitely do think how work works definitely needs to change, or at least to some degree. Because apparently right now, or at least as far as I'm aware, it's going to get to a point where a lot of it's going to go crashing down and we're all going to start over from scratch, basically. If not now, it will be in the future. So, yeah. Well, that'll be my... This is the first reaction video with the Unfiltered series. I hope you guys also liked the video. And also, by the way, if you liked the video, please hit the like button and also subscribe and hit the notification bell. I will be doing this content on a weekly basis. For now, it's once a week. But, however, I probably will do even more in the future. So, well, that is the video, guys. Well, y'all take it easy. Peace.